Welcome back, everyone, to the program. Well, we've been talking about the xenophobic attacks on some Nigerians living in South Africa. The reaction of Nigeria. Is the Nigerian government doing enough to make sure to send a strong statement? Well, the federal government says some of the National Assembly members will go to South Africa as part of sending a strong message. Is that enough? Is that the right decision to make? Honorable Abike Dabirawa, an advisor to President Muhammadu Buhari, had called on the African Union notifying it about what has been happening. Has also met with the South African ambassador to Nigeria. But again, are those enough? If those moves are being made, again, one would ask the question, what is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs doing? Professor Akin Oyebode, Professor of International Law, has been giving us a benefit of what should be done, what is the situation, and what perhaps Nigeria as a government should be doing right now. Many thanks, Prof, for sparing your time this evening on the program. If you look at all of these, one will wonder, what exactly is Nigeria's international policy like? Because if there are strong, violent actions against citizens of Nigeria, and when we wonder, it looks so much that there is a template of reactions from Nigeria, which a lot of people say is not enough to safeguard the lives of Nigerians. Do you think this government especially is really rising up to the occasion?
Well, I want to believe that the government must have set up a committee, like a small think tank, to study the phenomenon and come up with policy options. You know, the medium is the message. The way sometimes what you say is not as important as how you say it or where you say it. So I want to believe that the Minister of Foreign Affairs or the entire ministry must be fully agitated on the unpleasantness of the occurrence in South Africa. We are beginning to look like the ugly Nigerian, you know, people that others love to hate. Look at the number of Nigerian deportees from Libya, from Germany, and other places. So it means there's some disconnect between our foreign policy grandstanding, Africa as the centerpiece of our foreign policy, African solidarity and what have you, when our role is not appreciated. Then it seems ministers are a little bit lukewarm. They are not as flamboyant. Foreign policy requires a lot of panache, okay? Because Nigeria is a very important country, okay, because of our endowments, because of our history, and all that. The time was when we were hankering after a permanent seat on the Security Council. If a local problem like the South African issue cannot be handled properly by Nigeria, what are we going to do in the Security Council? So quite sincerely, I think we could also have made representations to SADC, the South African Development Conference, to let the South African area know that, look, they have a lot to take care of if they really want an African continental union by 2063. Look, I feel really embarrassed. The AU asked me to draft that convention, and I had to be shuttling between Lagos and Addis Ababa 5 years ago. Nigeria signed the convention, I believe, about 3 weeks ago. I don't think the Minister of Foreign Affairs is even aware that it's a Nigerian scholar that drafted that convention. So there are all sorts of things that one can't understand. The right hand sometimes doesn't know what the left is doing. But you see, a nation's foreign policy, as experts will say, flows from its domestic situation. We have a comatose economy. We have to contend with kidnapping, with armed robbery, with insurrection, Boko Haram, IPOD, all sorts of things, imponderables within the Nigerian political firmament. And that, of course, will weaken, our resolve, our capacity to conduct an activist or dynamic foreign policy.
Interesting.
Yes.
Let's talk about some more domestic, a more domestic matter now. There is one thing President Muhammadu Buhari says he wants to do, and that is fighting corruption. Is at the spine of his government's programs. Well, the government had come forward to say there were recovered loot, and when we wonder, when the government came forward to say in the 2017 budget, there's a deficit and it will be funded by borrowed funds. But at a meeting, a roundtable meeting in Abuja on the issue of anti-corruption, the acting president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, was there, and it will interest you what some of the discoveries about the side towards corruption has gone, the civil service. Take a listen.
Corruption is omnipresent in Nigeria. High and low office holders, public and private sector, the executive, legislative, judicial sectors, customs, immigration, police, academic, the civil service, everywhere. The recklessness with which public officers spend public funds is insensitive to the point of insanity. Now we have to ask ourselves what the problem really is. We are definitely overwhelmed by an epidemic of kleptomania. But do we also have a collective psychiatric problem? Why should a person loot what he cannot spend in 10 lifetimes, whilst exposing the rest of the population to misery, hunger, poverty, wretchedness, and even death?
What I'd like us to do, if that is possible, the cause of this dialogue, is to look at models that have worked elsewhere and to see whether those models are somewhat applicable here. To look at best practices, to look at some models that work. The truth of the matter is that there is nothing peculiar about the Nigerian citizen, the Nigerian type. Corruption thrives where it is allowed to thrive. And there are many societies that have been that have found themselves in worse circumstances than Nigeria and have somehow managed to solve the problems, their problems.